Hello everyone, welcome back. This is a story from her silent revenge, and it has taken a turn you absolutely didn't expect. Let's begin.
"Out of the house, hands up," the officer shouted as my door burst open at 6:47 a.m. Two guns were aimed straight at me. I was handcuffed for a serious hit and run, an accusation powerful enough to destroy my career, my reputation, and my freedom. Somewhere else in the city, my sister and my parents were sitting together, convinced their 90-day plan was flawless, that I would go to prison for the crash she caused. The cuffs tightened around my wrists. But they forgot one very small detail, and that detail was about to bring their entire plan crashing down. "Thank you for being here. You have no idea how much it means." Quick question. Where are you watching from? And if your own sibling framed you for a crime, would your first emotion be shock, rage, or disbelief? Tell me in the comments. Heads up, this story uses fictionalized details for impact and education. Any resemblance to actual names or locations is coincidental, but the lesson about protecting yourself from toxic family, that's painfully true. Let's begin. Officer Stevens didn't knock. 3 sharp metallic bangs rattle my apartment door at exactly 6:47 a.m. Not a neighbor, not a delivery. This is the sound of authority that doesn't wait for permission. I'm pouring my first cup of coffee when it happens. The stream freezes mid-air as my brain catches up. Outside my windows, rainy street is still gray with pre-dawn light, the Austin skyline barely visible through the haze. Austin police open the door. My hand jerks. Coffee splashes across the granite. I set the pot down, my pulse climbing. I'm wearing an old UT t-shirt and pajama shorts, bare feet padding across hardwood as I head for the door. I'm coming. The second my fingers touch the deadbolt, the door explodes inward. 3 officers flood my apartment. 2 Glock 22s aimed directly at my chest. "Hands, let me see your hands." I throw my arms up, palms out. The lead officer is young, maybe 30, buzz-cut, jaw clenched tight. His nameplate reads, Stevens. Behind him, 2 backup officers sweep the room, weapons drawn like they expect someone to jump out. "Reagan Sutton." Stevens' voice is flat. "Yes, what's—" "You're under arrest for attempted murder." The words don't compute. Attempted murder. It sounds like a foreign language, like I'm still asleep, and this is a nightmare. What, there's been a mistake? I haven't— Turn around, hands behind your back. Stevens doesn't wait. He grabs my wrist, spins me toward the counter, yanks my arms behind me. Cold steel bites into my skin. The handcuffs ratchet closed, click, 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 obscenely loud in my quiet apartment. "You have the right to remain silent." Stevens recites, breath hot against my neck. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Do you understand these rights?" "Yes, but I didn't do anything." "What attempted murder? I was home all night." "Tell it to the detective." He grips my bicep, turns me toward the door. My neighbors are watching. Mrs. Miller from 4B has her hand over her mouth. Marcus across the hall has his phone out recording. This is a perp walk. Public humiliation before I even reach booking. Stevens marches me down the hallway, past the broken elevator into the stairwell. My bare feet slap against cold concrete as we descend 3 flights. I force myself to observe details: Stevens' firm grip, the backup officer's body camera, blinking red the way they treat me like I'm dangerous. The thought sends ice through my veins. We exit into the underground garage where a black and white cruiser idles, exhaust mixing with damp concrete smell. Stevens opens the back door, steel-reinforced wire mesh separating front and back, and guides my head down as I slide inside. The door slams, locks engage with a heavy thunk. I'm alone in a police car. The molded plastic seat digs into my spine. Handcuffs bite into my wrists, shoulders already aching. Through the mesh, I watch Stevens radio in "Suspect in custody," en route to Central Station. Suspect, that's me now. I close my eyes, force myself to breathe. Attempted murder. Who, when, where? I was home last night, all night, 9 to 10 p.m. Zoom call with Singapore clients. Watched Netflix, fell asleep on the couch, woke up at 6:30, made coffee. No gaps, no blackout, no mystery hours, which means someone made a mistake, or someone is framing me. Stevens climbs into the driver's seat. The backup officers get into a second cruiser. Through the windshield, I watch the garage gate roll open, revealing pale morning light. Rainy Street is waking up joggers on the trail, a food truck setting up a guy walking his dog. Normal. In here, my life is unraveling. The cruiser pulls onto Cesar Chavez heading downtown. I watch my apartment building disappear in the mirror. Inside that building is my laptop, my phone, my work files, everything that proves I was exactly where I said I was. They didn't let me grab any of it. My mind spins through scenarios. Attempted murder doesn't happen without evidence. There's a victim somewhere, someone hurt, someone who, according to Austin PD, I tried to kill. But who and how? I stare out at the skyline buildings, glowing gold in early light, and one thought burns through the confusion. Whoever did this made a mistake. They think they can pin this on me. They think I won't be able to prove them wrong. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I do. I'm a cybersecurity analyst. I solve problems. I find holes in systems. I trace digital fingerprints people think they've erased. And I'm going to find whoever is trying to destroy me. The cruiser merges onto I-35 traffic building as Austin wakes up. Stevens' radio crackles with dispatch codes I don't understand. My reflection stares back at me in the window-tangled hair, UT shirt, handcuffs gleaming, and I look like exactly what they think I am. A criminal. But I'm not. I run through the facts again. Last night, 9 p.m. Zoom call. I can prove that cloud recording timestamp Singapore clients as witnesses. 10 p.m. Netflix. Fell asleep, woke at 6:30. Airtight alibi. So why am I in handcuffs? The answer hits me like cold water because someone wants me here. Someone planned this. Someone knew exactly how to make me look guilty. The question is who and why? Stevens takes the exit for downtown, and through the windshield, I see the Travis County Courthouse. Then the police station beyond it, a blocky concrete building that looks exactly like every government facility built in the 70s. Utilitarian, impersonal. The kind of place where lives get processed like paperwork. My stomach twists. This is real. This is actually happening. In 15 minutes, I'll be booked, fingerprinted, photographed, processed into the system like I'm already guilty. But I'm not going to panic. Panic doesn't solve problems. I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to use every skill I have, and I'm going to prove that someone set me up. Because that's what this is. A setup, a frame job so clean that Austin PD showed up at my door with guns drawn, confident they had their suspect. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. Someone smart. Someone close enough to know my schedule, my routines, my life. The thought makes my blood run cold. Stevens pulls into the station's underground garage and the fluorescent lights overhead flicker on harsh and institutional. He parks, kills the engine, and the sudden silence is deafening. This is it. He opens my door, helps me out, almost gentle now, the aggression gone, and I stand there in bare feet and pajamas handcuffed, while he radios that we've arrived. Detective will see you in about an hour. Stevens says, not unkindly. Booking first. I nod, don't trust myself to speak. As he guides me toward the heavy steel door leading into the station, I make myself a promise. I will find out who did this. I will prove my innocence. And I will make sure whoever tried to destroy me pays for every second of this nightmare. I didn't know it yet, but the person who destroyed my life was someone I'd protected my entire childhood. The 15-minute ride to Austin Police Department Central Station felt like hours. My wrists were already bruising. The handcuffs bit deeper with every pothole Stevens hit on Cesar Chavez, and I tried shifting in the molded plastic seat, but nothing helped. Through the wire mesh, I watched the city slide past taco trucks opening on 6th Street runners, crossing at lights, people living normal lives. I used to be one of them. Stevens' radio crackled. Unit 47 victim status stable. ICU at Del Seaton. Husband on scene, Detective Major Crimes. My stomach dropped. Victim. Someone was hurt in the ICU, and her husband was a cop. Stevens glanced at me in the rear view. Hear that detective's wife and their kid. He paused. You picked the wrong family. I didn't do anything, I whispered. He didn't respond. We pulled onto 8th Street. The station was a squat concrete fortress, bars on every window. Stevens parked underground, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and guided me through a steel door into a hallway reeking of industrial cleaner. The booking area was a large room divided by a counter. Behind it, a woman in her 50s, nameplate reading Martinez, barely looked up from her computer. "Name," she said flatly. "Reagan Sutton," Stevens answered for me. Martinez typed slowly. "D.O.B. Stevens" rattled off my information, my birth date, address, social security number, reducing me to data points. Charges: attempted murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, felony, hit-and-run, child endangerment. Child endangerment, a 7-year-old. Martinez finally looked at me, contempt plain on her face. Fingerprints. She pressed my fingers one by one against a scanner. Then the mug-shot, harsh lights, plain background, a placard with my name and a number. I had nothing to empty from my pockets. No phone, no wallet, just pajamas. "Cell 3, Martinez told Stevens. He walked me past, holding cells, a man sleeping, a woman crying, someone shouting about lawyers. The smell was worse, sweat and fear and something sour. Cell 3 was empty. Stevens removed my cuffs and gestured inside. "Detective will come when he's ready, could be hours." The door clanged shut. I sat on the cold metal bench, concrete walls pressing in, 8 by 10 feet. No windows, just fluorescent lights humming and distant station sounds. Jennifer Fisher. The name from the paperwork rattled in my head. Why was it familiar? I ran through my mental database, clients, co-workers, neighbors. Nothing. I didn't know a Jennifer Fisher. But Fisher, Detective Robert Fisher, Major Crimes. I'd seen his name in the news months ago, some high-profile case. His wife was the victim. And their daughter. Oh, God. My hands shook. If the victim was a cop's wife, the entire Austin Police Department would want blood. They wouldn't care about my alibi. They'd see whatever evidence they had, and that would be enough. Cops protect their own, and I was their enemy now. I forced myself to focus on facts. Last night, 9 p.m. Zoom call with Singapore, Marcus Taylor, Patricia Reed, the whole team. Cloud recording, timestamps, witnesses. That was my alibi. So why was I here? Footsteps echoed. A woman in plain clothes, dark slacks, blazer detective's shield on her belt stopped outside my cell. 40-something, short brown hair, tired eyes. "Miss Sutton," she said. "Someone posted your bail." I blinked. "What?" "Your father's attorney is here, Gregory Palmer. $500,000 bond." $500,000. My father. Ice flooded my veins. I hadn't called anyone. I'd been arrested an hour ago. How did he know? "I didn't call him," I said slowly. She shrugged. "He called us. Said he got word." She unlocked the cell. "You're free to go. Arraignment's Friday." "Who told him?" "Don't know. Maybe a neighbor." She gestured down the hall. "Palmer's waiting. A neighbor called. At 7 in the morning. Within an hour. And my father, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 months, immediately hired the most expensive attorney in Austin and posted $500,000. She led me to a consultation room. A man in a charcoal suit stood, 50-something, silver hair, courtroom confidence radiating off him. "Miss Sutton." His voice was smooth. "Gregory Palmer, your father retained me this morning." I stared at him. How did he know I was arrested? Palmer's smile didn't reach his eyes. "News travels fast. High-profile case, detective's family. It happened at 7 a.m. It's not on the news yet. Your father has connections. Let's focus on getting you home. I need to know how, Miss Sutton." His tone sharpened. "Right now you're facing 4 felonies. Attempted murder of a police officer's wife and child. The DA will push for maximum sentencing. We need to discuss strategy, not logistics." My phone buzzed on the table. Martinez must have returned my belongings. I grabbed it. 47 missed calls. Texts from my father, Wallace. "Stay calm, don't say anything. Come to Westlake." From my mother, Margaret, "Paige is devastated. Come home." I stared at that last one. Paige is devastated. My sister. Why would she be devastated? She didn't even know I'd been arrested. I hadn't told anyone. Unless Miss Sutton. Palmer was watching me carefully. "I need to go to my apartment," I said. "Get my laptop, figure out what happened. Your father wants you at the estate. Family meeting. Tell him I'll come tonight. I need answers first." Palmer's jaw tightened. Your father insists, and I insist on going home. I stood. Thank you for posting bail. I'll be in touch. I walked out before he could argue. Outside the station, the morning sun was harsh after the fluorescent lights. September in Austin, still hot humidity already building. I stood on the courthouse steps, freed but not free, and one thought burned through the confusion. Something was very wrong. My father knew too fast. My mother mentioned Paige being devastated when Paige shouldn't even know yet. I pulled out my phone, opened the security app for my apartment building. I needed last night's footage. I needed to see exactly what happened while I was asleep. The app loaded, and my blood went cold. Someone had accessed my account at 3:14 a.m. this morning from an IP address I recognized immediately. Westlake Hills, my parents' house. Gregory Palmer was exactly the kind of lawyer my father would hire, expensive suit, colder eyes. The air conditioning was set too high and I was still in pajamas, barefoot bruises darkening on my wrists. Palmer, meanwhile, looked like he'd stepped out of a boardroom. Money. That's what Palmer represented. The kind that made problems disappear. Your father called me at 7 this morning, he said, sliding a folder across the table. Bail was set at $500,000. We've posted it. You're free to go. I stared at the folder, didn't open it. How did he know I was arrested? Palmer's smile was practiced. News travels fast in this city. High-profile case, a detective's family. It happened at 7 a.m. I've been here less than 2 hours. It's not on the news. Your father has connections that told him I was arrested at my apartment at 6:47 this morning. I leaned forward. Before anyone outside this building knew, Palmer's smile tightened. I'm not privy to how your father received the information. What matters is he acted quickly to secure your release. Why, the question hung there. Palmer blinked. You're his daughter. I haven't spoken to him in 3 months. Family is family, Miss Sutton. Palmer opened the folder, revealing paperwork. Now let's discuss strategy. You're facing 4 felony charges. Attempted murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, felony hit-and-run, child endangerment. The DA will push hard. The victim is Detective Robert Fisher's wife. His 7-year-old daughter was in the vehicle. My stomach twisted. 7 years old. I didn't do this. That's what we'll argue. But right now, the evidence is against you. He pulled out a document. Your driver's license was found at the scene. An anonymous 911 call placed you fleeing the crash site. We need to establish an alibi, find witnesses, challenge the evidence. What 911 call? Palmer glanced at his notes. Someone called in around 9:27 p.m., reported seeing a woman matching your description running from the intersection of Lamar and 6th, 9:27, 10 minutes after the crash. Who called? Anonymous, that's the problem. My mind raced. Anonymous meant untraceable, meant someone who didn't want their identity known, someone who... Miss Sutton. Palmer was watching me. Do you have an alibi for last night? Yes, I was on a Zoom call with clients in Singapore from 9 to 10 p.m., video recorded. Cloud backup, timestamps, then I was home alone. Anyone who can verify you were home after 10. No, but then we have a gap. Palmer made a note. The crash occurred at 9:14. If your Zoom call started at 9, you would have been on camera. That's good. We can use that. I was on camera. The entire hour, I didn't leave my apartment. We'll need that recording. And we need to explain how your license ended up at the scene. I opened my mouth, then closed it. How did my license end up there? I'd lost it 2 months ago, or thought I had. I need to get my laptop, I said. My work files, everything's at my apartment. Palmer nodded. Your father wants you at the estate first. Family meeting. The way he said it, casual matter of fact, made my skin crawl. How does my father know what I need? I'm sorry. You said he wants me at the estate. Did he tell you to say that? Palmer's expression didn't change. Your father is concerned. He wants to make sure you're safe, that we're coordinating our response. Tell him I'll come tonight. Miss Sutton, I need to go home first. Figure out what's happening. Palmer's jaw tightened. Your father was very clear. He wants you in Westlake, now. The word wants landed like a command. I stood. Thank you for posting bail. I'll be in touch. Miss Sutton, I strongly advise. I'll call you later. I walked out before he could argue. The property clerk returned my belongings, phone, wallet, keys in a manila envelope. My phone was dead. I asked to borrow a charger, waited 10 minutes for it to power up. When the screen finally lit, the notifications flooded in. 47 missed calls, texts from numbers I recognized, and some I didn't. I scrolled through. My father, Wallace. Stay calm. Don't say anything. Come to Westlake. Sent at 7:14 a.m., 30 minutes after my arrest. My mother, Margaret. Paige is devastated. Come home. Sent at 7:22 a.m. I stared at that message. Paige is devastated. My sister. My 28-year-old sister who lived with our parents, who planned weddings for Austin's elite, who I hadn't spoken to since July. Why would she be devastated? She didn't even know I'd been arrested. I hadn't told anyone, unless she already knew. I scrolled further. More texts from my father. One from my mother's interior design business partner asking if I was okay. 2 from co-workers at SecureNet Solutions. How did they all know? I signed the release paperwork, barely reading it, and pushed through the station doors into blinding September sun. The heat hit me like a wall. Austin in September, still summer humidity, thick, the kind of weather that made you sweat just standing still. The courthouse steps were empty, except for a guy smoking a cigarette and a woman arguing into her phone. Normal people with normal problems. I stood there freed but not free and pulled up my contacts. I needed to call my boss. Explain why I wouldn't be at work. Explain that I'd been arrested for attempted murder, but it was a mistake. A horrible mistake. But first, I needed to know what happened last night. I opened the app for my apartment building's security system. I was listed as a resident, had access to hallway cameras' lobby footage. If someone had come to my door, if something had happened, it would be recorded. The app loaded slowly, my phone struggling on the station's weak Wi-Fi. Then the login screen appeared. Last login, 3:14 a.m. September 17th, 2024. IP address 198.51.100.47, Westlake Hills, Texas. My parents' house. Someone had accessed my security account at 3:14 this morning, 4 hours before my arrest, from my parents' estate 12 miles away. My hands started shaking. Wallace and Margaret lived at 1847 Westlake Drive. I knew that IP address. I'd set up their home network 5 years ago when they bought the place. Someone in my family had logged into my security system in the middle of the night, checking the cameras, watching me, or deleting footage. I looked back at the police station, then at my phone, then at the messages from my father demanding I come home, and I understood. This wasn't a mistake. This was a setup. My apartment felt different when I stepped back inside. The space that had always been my sanctuary, minimalist furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking Lady Bird Lake, a small balcony where I drank coffee every morning, now felt like a crime scene. Not because anything had been touched, because everything was exactly as I'd left it 2 hours ago when 3 cops had kicked in my door and dragged me out in handcuffs. The espresso machine was still warm. My mug sat on the counter, half full of cold coffee. My laptop was open on the dining table screen, dark but humming softly in sleep mode. I locked the door behind me, double bolt, deadbolt chain, and leaned against it for a moment, breathing. Focus, Reagan. I had maybe 6 hours before my father expected me at the Westlake estate. 6 hours to figure out what the hell was going on. 6 hours to find out who had stolen my identity, ruined my life, and framed me for attempted murder. I set my phone on the counter and opened my laptop. The screen lit up immediately, password auto-filled browser tabs, still open from last night. My work dashboard. The Singapore client Zoom recording. A half-written report on network vulnerabilities for a logistics firm in Dallas. Everything normal, everything routine, except it wasn't. I opened a new terminal window and pulled up my personal security dashboard, a custom-built system I designed 3 years ago when I first moved to Austin. Motion sensors, door locks, camera feeds, access logs. The whole apartment was wired, monitored, encrypted. I scrolled to last night, September 16th, 2024, 9:00 p.m. Front door locked. Motion sensor living room, Reagan Sutton. 9:00 2 p.m. Laptop activity, Zoom meeting initiated. 10:14 p.m. Zoom meeting ended. Motion sensor kitchen. 10:47 p.m. Netflix login detected. 11:32 p.m. Motion sensor bedroom. Lights off. 6:30 a.m. Motion sensor bedroom. Lights on. Perfect. A complete digital alibi. But the cops hadn't cared about my alibi. They'd cared about a driver's license found at the scene of a hit and run. My driver's license. I closed the laptop and walked to my bedroom. My wallet was still on the nightstand where I'd left it last night. I picked it up, flipped it open. Credit cards, Secure Net Solutions, employee badge, Costco membership, insurance card, a $20 bill. No driver's license. I stared at the empty plastic sleeve. When was the last time I'd actually seen my license? I sat on the edge of my bed thinking. I didn't drive much. Austin traffic was brutal, and I lived downtown. Everything I needed was within walking distance or a quick Lyft ride. My Tesla Model 3 spent most of its time in the building's garage, fully charged and rarely used. The last time I'd driven anywhere was 2 weeks ago, 3. No, wait, the gym. I stood up heart pounding. 2 months ago, late July. I'd gone to Lifetime Fitness in Westlake Hills, my old gym, the one near my parents' house. I'd been visiting for some family obligation I couldn't quite remember now. A birthday, a dinner. I'd brought my gym bag, workout clothes, towel, water bottle, and my wallet. I'd locked everything in a locker, gone for a 45-minute spin class, showered and left. I hadn't checked my wallet. Why would I wasn't buying anything. I'd just thrown it back in my bag and driven home. Oh my God. I grabbed my phone and opened my Photos app, scrolling back to July. There, July 21st, 2024. A picture of me and Paige at the Westlake estate. Sunday brunch on the back patio. She was wearing a white sundress, smiling at the camera. I was in workout clothes, hair still damp from the gym. The timestamp 11:47 a.m. I zoomed in on the background. My gym bag was on the patio chair behind us, open. I felt the blood drain from my face. Paige had been at the house that morning. We'd gone to brunch together after my workout. She'd helped me carry my stuff inside. She'd had access to my gym bag, to my wallet, to my driver's license. I sat back down on the bed staring at the photo. No, Paige was my sister. She was spoiled, yes. Selfish, absolutely. A little narcissistic, maybe. But she wasn't a criminal. She wouldn't steal my license. She wouldn't frame me for attempted murder. Would she? I thought about the text my mother had sent this morning. Paige is falling apart. Come home, sweetie. Falling apart. Why? I opened my messages and scrolled back through the last few weeks. Nothing from Paige. We hadn't texted since early August, a brief exchange about whether I'd be coming to her engagement party. I'd said no. She'd sent back a passive-aggressive emoji and gone silent. That was normal. Paige and I weren't close. We hadn't been close in years. But stealing my license, framing me for a felony, that wasn't just not close. That was sabotage. I opened my laptop again and pulled up the building security log. September 17th, 2024, 3:14 a.m. External login detected. IP 198.51.100.47 Westlake Hills, Texas. User admin override. Access granted. Whoever had logged in from Westlake at 3:14 in the morning, 2 hours before the cops showed up, had known exactly when to check my apartment security system. They'd known I'd have an alibi. They'd known I'd be home. And they'd called the cops anyway. I stood up, shoving my phone in my pocket. I wasn't going to wait until tonight. I was going to Westlake, right now. And I was going to find out what my family had done. The drive to Westlake Hills felt like driving into enemy territory. I took the long way down South Congress across the river, then west on Bee Cave Road. The sun was setting over the hills, painting the sky in shades of burnt orange and deep pink. Golden hour. The kind of Texas evening that made tourists pull over and take photos. I kept my eyes on the road. By the time I reached the Westlake gate, my hands were steady on the wheel, but my heart was pounding. I punched in the code my birthday, same as it had been for 15 years, and the iron gate swung open. 1,847 Westlake Drive sat at the end of a tree-lined private road. 3 stories, white columns, a circular driveway with a fountain in the center. The kind of house that screamed old money even though my father had only bought it 12 years ago when his hedge fund hit 8 figures. Every window was lit. I parked my Tesla behind my mother's Mercedes and sat for a moment staring at the front door. Focus, Reagan. I grabbed my phone, took a breath, and stepped out. The door opened before I could knock. Wallace Sutton stood in the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. 61 years old, silver hair navy suit, even at 6 in the evening. He looked like he'd just walked out of a boardroom. "About time," he said. "We need to talk." I stepped inside without a word. The foyer was exactly as I remembered: white marble floors, a crystal chandelier, a massive oil painting of the Texas hill country on the far wall. The air smelled like lavender and money. Margaret appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was smaller than I remembered, her blonde bob perfectly styled, her linen blouse wrinkle-free. She crossed the room, quickly reaching for me. "Oh, Reagan, sweetheart, this is terrible. Are you okay?" I stepped back before she could touch me. "How did you know I was arrested?" Wallace's jaw tightened. "Gregory called me. Now sit down. We need a strategy." He turned and walked into the living room without waiting for an answer. Margaret hovered for a moment, then followed. I stayed where I was looking around. The house felt different. It always did. No matter how many years I'd spent here growing up, it never felt like mine. It was Wallace's house, Wallace's rules, Wallace's money. I walked into the living room. Wallace sat in his leather armchair, the one no one else was allowed to sit in, with a glass of scotch in one hand. Margaret perched on the edge of the sofa, hands folded in her lap. Both of them looked at me like I was a problem to be solved. I sat across from them, back straight, arms crossed. "Gregory said the evidence is circumstantial," Wallace began. "Your driver's license, an anonymous tip. We can fight this." "Anonymous tip," I said. "What tip?" Margaret's hands twisted in her lap. "Someone called 911. They said they saw a woman matching your description running from the scene." "Who called?" Wallace's voice turned sharp. "Anonymous. That's what anonymous means." I stared at him. He was lying. I could see it in the way his knuckles tightened around the glass, in the way Margaret wouldn't meet my eyes. They knew who had called. Before I could say anything, footsteps echoed from the kitchen. "Reagan." Paige appeared in the doorway, eyes wide, mascara smudged. She wore an oversized cashmere sweater and yoga pants, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked like she'd been crying for hours. She rushed toward me, arms open. I stood but didn't move. Paige stopped a foot away, her smile faltering. "Oh my God, are you okay?" Her voice cracked. "I can't believe this is happening. Jennifer Fisher is the best friend of my wedding coordinator. This is just awful." I went very still. "Your wedding coordinator knows Jennifer." Paige blinked. "I mean, well, Austin's small. Everyone knows everyone." "Right." I watched her carefully. The tears were real. Her eyes were red, her cheeks blotchy. But something else was off. Her hands were trembling, but her gaze was sharp, alert. She wasn't breaking down. She was performing. "Paige," I said slowly, "where were you last night at 9:14? The room went silent. Wallace set his glass down hard. "What the hell kind of question is that?" I kept my eyes on Paige. "A simple one. Where were you?" Paige's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I was here, at home, with Mom and Dad. We had dinner." I turned to Margaret. "Is that true?" "Yes," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Yes, we all had dinner together." "What did you eat?" Margaret hesitated. "I made chicken, roasted chicken." "What time?" 7. Wallace cut in. "We ate at 7. Paige was here all night. What are you trying to imply, Reagan?" I stood up. Paige took a step back. "I'm not implying anything," I said. "I'm asking questions, because someone used my driver's license to destroy a woman's life last night. Someone logged into my building's security system at 3 in the morning from this address, and someone called 911 to make sure I'd be arrested." "That's absurd," Wallace started. "Is it?" I looked at Paige. Really looked at her. Her left hand was bandaged, white gauze wrapped around her knuckles, held in place with medical tape. "What happened to your hand?" I asked. Paige glanced down, then quickly shoved both hands into her sweater pockets. "Nothing. I cut it, cooking." "When?" "Yesterday." "Before or after 9:14? "Reagan, stop this." Wallace stood, his voice thundering. "You're upset. You're scared. But you do not come into my house and accuse your sister. I need to use the bathroom." No one moved. "Upstairs," I added. Wallace's jaw worked. Finally, he nodded. I walked out of the room, climbed the familiar staircase, and turned left at the top of the landing. But I didn't go to the bathroom. I went to Paige's bedroom, and what I found there would change everything. Paige's childhood bedroom hadn't changed much. Still the same pale pink walls, still the same air of casual privilege, hanging in the space like perfume. I closed the door softly behind me and stood still for a moment listening. Downstairs, I could hear Wallace's voice low and clipped, my mother's softer replies, the clink of glassware. Good. They thought I was in the bathroom. I turned and scanned the room. A queen bed with a white duvet, throw pillows arranged in perfect symmetry. A vanity covered in expensive skincare products, serums, masks, jade rollers. A walk-in closet with the door half-open designer handbags lined up on floating shelves like art pieces. And on the desk by the window, a laptop, still open. Screen dark, but the power light glowing faintly. Sleep mode. I crossed the room in 3 steps and touched the trackpad. The screen lit up. No password lock, just the desktop bright and clean. The wallpaper was a professional engagement photo, Paige in a white lace dress smiling at the camera, her hand resting on the chest of a man in his mid-30s. Dark hair, expensive watch, confident smile. I didn't recognize him. I glanced at the dock at the bottom of the screen. Safari, Messages, Instagram, Calendar, and 7 open browser tabs. I leaned closer. The first few were harmless. A wedding venue in Fredericksburg, a Pinterest board titled Fall Wedding Aesthetic, a Saks Fifth Avenue cart with 3 bridesmaid dresses saved. Nothing suspicious, just wedding planning. I was about to close the laptop when I noticed the last tab. It was labeled Private Browsing. My hand hovered over the trackpad. I clicked it anyway. The screen filled with a list of URLs, browser history from a private window one page had apparently forgotten to close. I scrolled down and my blood went cold. September 14th, 2024, 11:47 p.m. How to report hit and run anonymously, Austin. September 14th, 2024, 11:52 p.m. Do police check alibis of family members. September 15th, 2024. 12:03 a.m. Austin Police non-emergency number. September 15th, 2024, 12:18 a.m. How long does forensic analysis take? September 16th, 2024, 3:47 p.m. Can deleted text messages be recovered by police? September 16th, 2024, 8:52 p.m. What happens if you leave scene of accident, Texas? I stared at the screen, my heart hammering in my chest. Paige had been researching this for days, before the crash even happened. She'd Googled how to report a hit and run anonymously, how to avoid getting caught, how to frame someone. And then the night of the crash, she'd actually done it. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and opened the camera. I took 3 quick photos, one of the full screen, 2 close-ups of the search terms. I closed the browser window, putting the laptop back exactly as I'd found it, sleep mode screen dark. I stepped back from the desk, breathing hard. I needed more. Browser history wasn't enough. Any lawyer could argue it was taken out of context, that Paige had been researching for a blog post or a true crime podcast or some other bullshit excuse. I needed something concrete. I turned to the vanity and opened the top drawer makeup brushes, lip glosses, false eyelashes. Second drawer jewelry, tangled necklaces, a Tiffany box. Third drawer and I froze. At the back, half hidden under a stack of old birthday cards, was a small black notebook. I pulled it out. The cover was plain, no title, no label. Just a cheap spiral-bound notebook from CVS or Walgreens, the kind you'd use for grocery lists or to-do reminders. I opened it and my stomach dropped. The first page was dated July 29th, 2024. Day 1 took R's driver's license from her gym bag at Lifetime. She didn't even notice. Kept it in my car, just in case. I flipped forward. Day 18. Researched Austin PD procedures. They always arrest based on ID at the scene. No questions asked if there's an anonymous tip. Day 32, pick the target. Jennifer Fisher, detective's wife. Perfect. If I hit a cop's family, they'll go full force. Reagan won't have time to think. Day 47, practice run. Drove past 4th and Elm at 9:15 p.m. Intersection is dark. No cameras. Victim always walks her dog at that time. Day 60 engagement party this weekend. Reagan's not coming. Good. She's already pulling away from the family. Makes it easier to destroy her. Day 75. One more week. Everything is ready. The license, the car, the route. Reagan's perfect little life is about to end, and I'll finally be the successful one. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred. Paige hadn't just stolen my license. She'd planned this for months. She'd stalked Jennifer Fisher. She'd practiced the route. She'd researched how to frame me step by step like it was a project, like I was a problem to be eliminated. Footsteps in the hallway. I shoved the notebook back into the drawer, slammed it shut, and stood up just as the door opened. Paige stood in the doorway, her eyes narrowing. Reagan, are you in here? I forced my expression into something neutral, tired, overwhelmed. Yeah, I just needed a minute. It's been a long day. Paige stepped inside, her gaze sweeping the room. The desk, the closet, the vanity. Why my room? The bathroom was occupied, I said. I just needed somewhere quiet. Her eyes lingered on the desk, on the laptop. Then she looked back at me. You should go home, she said quietly. Get some rest. This has been a lot. I nodded. Yeah, you're right. I moved toward the door, but Paige reached out and grabbed my wrist. You believe me, right? Her voice cracked, tears welling in her eyes again. That I was here, with Mom and Dad. You believe me? I looked down at her hand, at the knuckles, fresh scrapes, red raw skin still healing, the kind of injury you'd get from an airbag deploying at high speed, slamming your hands against the steering wheel. I looked up and met her eyes. Of course I believe you, I said. You're my sister. She smiled, relieved, and let go of my wrist. I walked out of the room, down the stairs, past Wallace and Margaret in the living room. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked out the front door, got in my car, and drove. But I didn't go home. I pulled over 2 blocks away, hands shaking on the wheel, and opened my phone. 3 things were now certain. 1, Paige had researched how to frame someone for a hit and run weeks before the crash happened. 2, she had fresh injuries on her hands consistent with an airbag deployment. And 3, my parents were helping her cover it up. But I still didn't know the worst part. I didn't know how long Paige had been planning to destroy me. I didn't sleep that night. By 6 a.m., I was at my home office, 3 monitors glowing in the dark, tracing every digital thread I could find. The photos I'd taken in Paige's room sat open on my left screen, browser searches, dates, timestamps. On the center monitor, a terminal window blinked, waiting for commands. On the right, a spreadsheet where I was building a timeline. July 21st, gym bag driver's license stolen. July 29th day, one of Paige's handwritten journal. September 14th to 16th. Google searches on how to frame someone for a hit and run. September 16th, 9:14 p.m. the crash. September 17th, 6:47 a.m. my arrest. But there were gaps, holes in the story. I needed more than browser history and a notebook. I needed proof that would hold up in court. Proof that couldn't be explained away by some expensive lawyer Wallace would hire. I leaned back in my chair, sipping cold coffee, and stared at the ceiling. Then I remembered. 5 years ago, my mother had asked me to set up iCloud family sharing for the household. She'd wanted to share photos, calendars, subscriptions. I'd spent an afternoon configuring it, linking Wallace's account, Margaret's account, Paige's account. And because I was the one who set it up, I was still the family organizer, which meant I still had admin access to everyone's devices. I sat up, opened a new browser tab, navigated to iCloud.com, and logged in with the family admin credentials. The dashboard loaded. 4 accounts: Wallace Sutton, Margaret Sutton, Paige Sutton, Reagan Sutton. I clicked on Paige's name. A list of her devices appeared. iPhone 14 Pro, MacBook Pro, iPad Air, all currently online, all backing up to the cloud. I smiled. Let's see what you're hiding, little sister. I clicked on the iPhone backup from 2 days ago, September 16th, the day of the crash. The download started. 6 gigabytes. It would take a few minutes. I poured another cup of coffee and sat back down. The progress bar crawled forward. 80%, 90. Done. I opened the backup in a forensic extraction tool software I used for work when clients needed to recover deleted data or investigate insider threats. The interface loaded messages, photos, app data, call logs, location history, everything. I started with the messages. The tool flagged several deleted conversations. I clicked on the first one. A text thread between Paige and an unknown number. Area code 214, Dallas. I scrolled to the beginning of the conversation. July 15th, 2024, 2 months ago. Got what you need. $500. Bitcoin only. Paige had replied, "How do I know it's real?" The unknown number sent back. "It'll scan. I used it myself. Never got caught." I stared at the screen. A fake ID. She'd bought a fake ID. I kept reading. July 28th, 2024. Paige, "Will it work at bars unknown number anywhere, but don't push it. 1 DUI and you're done." My hands tightened on the armrests. DUI. She'd been planning to drive drunk, to crash, to use my license as cover, and she'd researched it carefully enough to know she needed a backup identity. I took a screenshot and added it to my evidence folder. Then I switched to financial records. Paige's Venmo account was linked to the family iCloud, which meant I could see her transaction history. I scrolled back to mid-July. July 15th, payment to Alex M. $500. The memo said, "Thanks for the referral." I ran a reverse lookup on the Venmo username. Alex Martinez, 32 years old, last known address in Dallas. A quick search on a dark web monitoring tool I subscribed to for work pulled up a hit. Alex Martinez had been mentioned in several forums dedicated to fake IDs, burner phones, and document forgery. He wasn't a small-time hustler. He was a professional. And Paige had paid him $500 in cash, then covered it with a fake Venmo memo to make it look innocent. I kept digging. Opened Paige's Coinbase account. She'd linked it to the family payment method years ago to buy cryptocurrency as an investment. I pulled up her transaction history. July 15th, 2024, purchased $500 in Bitcoin, immediately transferred to an external wallet. The wallet address was untraceable, but the timing matched. She'd bought the Bitcoin the same day she'd paid Alex Martinez. She'd known exactly what she was doing. I added the Coinbase records to my folder. Then I went deeper, pulled up her credit card statements. Most of it was predictable Sephora Nordstrom brunch at Hillside Pharmacy yoga classes. But one transaction stood out. August 10th, 2024, $200 to Insight Surveillance LLC. I Googled the name. A private investigation firm based in South Austin. Discreet, expensive. Specializing in personal security background checks and surveillance. I felt my pulse quicken. She'd hired a PI to do what Watch Me Follow Jennifer Fisher. Confirm my routines so she'd know exactly when I'd be home. Exactly when I'd have an alibi, I opened a new tab and searched for the company's website. Their services included subject tracking, pattern of life analysis, and digital footprint mapping. All the tools you'd need if you wanted to destroy someone and make it look like an accident. I sat back, breathing hard. This wasn't just a drunken mistake. This wasn't a panicked cover-up. Paige had spent 2 months, maybe longer, planning this. She'd bought a fake ID. She'd researched how to frame me. She'd hired a private investigator. She'd paid for everything in cash and Bitcoin to avoid leaving a trail. She'd practiced the route. She'd chosen the victim. And she'd written it all down in a notebook, like it was a fucking business plan. My phone buzzed. A text from Wallace. "Need to talk. Call me." I ignored it. I wasn't ready to talk to him. Not yet. Not until I had everything. I turned back to the monitors. The iCloud backup was still open. I clicked through the remaining files. Photos, notes, calendar. And then I saw it. A folder on Paige's iPad labeled Journal Private. Last modified September 16th, 2024, 11:32 p.m., the night before my arrest. My hand hovered over the trackpad. Whatever was in that journal, it would confirm my worst fear, that Paige hadn't just framed me. She documented it. Every step, every decision, every moment she'd chosen to destroy me. I clicked the folder and started to read. Wait, before I open that journal, the one where Paige documented her 90-day plan to destroy me, I need you to comment a number 1 if you think she acted alone, 2 if you think my parents knew, or 3 if you believe this gets even darker. Because what I'm about to read isn't just evidence, it's a blueprint. Day 1, jealousy. Day 47, victim chosen. Day 89, goodbye, big sister. She wrote it like a to-do list, proudly, methodically. Quick note, this story includes fictionalized elements for educational purposes, and any resemblance to actual people or events is coincidental. If intense betrayal narratives aren't your thing, exit now and find something else. But if you're ready to see the moment I realize my sister spent 3 months planning my destruction, stay with me. The journal doesn't lie. And what it reveals will shatter everything you thought you knew about family loyalty. I made another pot of coffee. I was going to need it. The journal had 90 days of entries. I sat back down at my desk, the PDF open on my center monitor, and started scrolling. The first entry was dated June 18th, 2024, 3 months ago, almost a full season before the crash. I took a breath and began to read. Day 1. Dinner tonight. Dad wouldn't stop talking about Reagan's promotion. $178,000 a year, Reagan. Director level at 33, Reagan. One, I'm so sick of hearing her name. I plan weddings for millionaires and Dad acts like I'm unemployed. I'm done being second place. I stared at the screen. This was about jealousy. Just jealousy. My promotion, my salary, my success. That was enough for her to want to destroy me. I remembered that dinner, June 18th. Wallace had insisted I come celebrate. Paige had smiled the whole night, hugged me, told me she was proud, and the entire time she'd been sitting there hating me. I kept reading. Day 15, I know what I'm going to do. Reagan thinks she's so smart with her cybersecurity job. She won't see this coming. I need her driver's license first. Then I need a perfect victim, someone who'll make the cops so angry they won't bother checking alibis. My hands started shaking. A perfect victim. She'd chosen Jennifer deliberately. This wasn't random. This was tactical. She'd spent 2 weeks planning how to destroy me, and she'd decided the key was choosing someone whose harm would make the police too furious to think straight. I scrolled forward. Day 28. Reagan goes to the gym in Westlake every Wednesday morning. She's so predictable. I'll run into her tomorrow, grab the license while she's in the shower. I closed my eyes. July 12th. She'd been at the gym. She'd texted me, visiting mom nearby, want brunch after your workout. I'd been so happy. We'd met, chatted, and I'd left my bag unlocked while I showered. When I came back, Paige was gone, and she'd already stolen my license. I kept scrolling, my stomach twisting. Day 35. Got it. Reagan's license is mine. She hasn't even noticed it's gone. So stupid. Now I just need to find the right target. So stupid. She'd written that about me, her sister. The person who defended her, protected her, covered for her for 30 years. I was stupid because I trusted her. I forced myself to keep reading. Day 40 watched Reagan at her coffee shop today. She looked so happy. That won't last. I froze. July 20th. Cosmic Coffee on South Congress. I'd felt someone watching me, but when I looked up, the street was empty. It hadn't been empty. Paige had been there, watching, already imagining my life falling apart. Day 47 found her. Detective Robert Fisher's wife, Jennifer. She's a pediatric nurse, perfect innocent victim. She drives home from the hospital every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m., straight through Lamar and 6th. And here's the genius part: when a cop's family member gets hurt, the whole department goes insane. They'll arrest whoever's ID is left there, then ask questions later. Reagan won't have time to prove her innocence. I felt bile rise in my throat. She'd chosen a detective's wife, strategically, coldly, because she knew it would trigger a faster arrest, because she knew the police would be too angry, too protective to check my alibi carefully. She'd weaponized the system against me. I kept reading. The entries got more detailed, more methodical. Day 52, called a PI firm in South Austin. $200 for a full surveillance report on Jennifer Fisher's routines. Worth every penny. She'd hired a private investigator to stalk Jennifer, to map her schedule. This wasn't jealousy spiraling out of control. This was a project. Day 60 engagement party this weekend. Reagan's not coming. Good. She's already pulling away from the family. Makes it easier to destroy her. August 10th. I'd skipped her party, told her I had a work deadline. I'd thought I was protecting myself. I hadn't realized I was making it easier for her to frame me. Day 68 bought a fake ID from a guy in Dallas, $500 in Bitcoin. It scans so if I get pulled over before the crash, I can use it instead of mine. Reagan's license stays clean until I need it. She'd thought of everything. Backup identity, untraceable payment, contingency plans. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was professional. Day 75 practice run last night. Drove Dad's Range Rover through that intersection drunk at 9:15. No cops, no cameras I could see. Timing's perfect. Jennifer's car goes through there like clockwork. I stopped scrolling. My vision blurred. She'd done a practice run. She'd driven drunk on purpose to test the route, to make sure she could do it without getting caught, to time it perfectly. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a panicked cover-up. This was rehearsed. September 2nd. I'd been at my apartment that night working late. 12 miles away, my sister was rehearsing my destruction. I forced myself to keep reading. Day 82 told Mom the plan. She cried at first, but Dad convinced her. He said Reagan's always been difficult, always thought she was better than us. He said this would teach her humility. Mom agreed to make the anonymous 911 call. She'll use a burner phone and say she saw a woman matching Reagan's description running from the scene. Perfect. I felt something break inside me. My mother. My own mother had agreed to this. She'd cried, but she'd agreed. Because Wallace had convinced her. Because they both thought I deserved it. I'd been difficult because I refused to let Wallace control my career. Because I'd moved out at 25. Because I didn't need his money. And for that, he'd decided I needed to be taught humility by sending me to prison. I scrolled to the final entries, tears blurring the screen. Day 89, September 16th, the night before my arrest. Tomorrow night, everything's ready. I'll hit Jennifer's car around 9:17. Reagan will be on her stupid Zoom call, a perfect alibi that won't mean anything. I'll leave her license on the driver's seat. Mom will call 911 with an anonymous tip. By morning, Reagan will be in jail. She'll lose her job, her reputation, her freedom. She'll finally know what it's like to have nothing. And I'll finally be the successful one, the one Dad's proud of. Goodbye, big sister. I couldn't breathe. The words swam on the screen. She'd wanted to destroy me. Completely. Not just frame me, destroy me. Take everything I'd worked for, make me suffer. And she'd written it down like it was a to-do list. Goodbye, big sister. Like I was already dead. I sat back numb. 90 days. She'd spent 90 days planning to send me to prison, but there was one more entry, dated today. September 18th, just a few hours ago. I clicked it. Day 90, Reagan got bailed out. She's probably at her apartment right now trying to figure out what happened. Let her. Even if she suspects me, she has no proof. And by the time she finds anything, the plea deal will look too good to refuse. Mom and Dad are handling the lawyer. Everything's under control. I stared at the timestamp. 6:47 a.m. The exact minute I'd started investigating. Paige didn't know I had her journal. She didn't know I'd accessed her iCloud backup. She didn't know I had screenshots of her browser history, her Venmo payments, her Bitcoin transactions, her text messages with the fake ID dealer. She thought she was safe. She thought she'd won. and that was going to be her biggest mistake. I closed the laptop and sat in the silence of my apartment. The coffee had gone cold. The sun was higher now, streaming through the windows, but I barely noticed. I had the evidence. I had everything. Browser history, financial records, text messages, a 90-day journal documenting every step of a premeditated conspiracy to frame me for attempted murder. But I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't just walk into the police station and hand it over. Paige would claim I'd fabricated it. Wallace would hire a team of lawyers to bury it. Margaret would lie under oath. And I'd access the journal through a family iCloud account. Legal, yes, but Palmer would call it hacking. Any defense attorney would argue the evidence was tainted, illegally obtained. I needed more than proof. I needed a plan. I stood up, poured the cold coffee down the sink, and stared out at the Austin skyline. Somewhere out there, Paige was going about her day, planning her wedding, texting her friends, pretending to be worried about her sister. She had no idea I'd found the journal. She had no idea I'd spent the last 6 hours tracing every transaction, every deleted message, every lie. She thought I was still in the dark, still scrambling, still the stupid big sister who trusted her, and she had no idea that I was coming for her. I needed help, not from my family's lawyer, from someone who actually wanted the truth. I stared at my phone for a long moment, then pulled up the Austin Police Department's main number. My finger hovered over the call button. Once I made this call, there was no going back. My family would know I'd turned against them. Paige would know I was fighting back. But I thought about Jennifer Fisher in the ICU, about her 7-year-old daughter with a concussion, about 90 days of planning, 90 days of cold calculation, 90 days of my sister deciding I deserved to lose everything. I pressed call. The line rang twice before a dispatcher picked up. Austin Police Department, how can I help you? I need to speak to the detective handling my case, I said. My name is Reagan Sutton. I was arrested 2 days ago for attempted murder, case number 47921. There was a pause. Typing. That case is assigned to Detective Bradley, Major Crimes. Hold, please. The line clicked over to hold music. I waited, my heart pounding. Then a male voice came on, rough and tired. This is Bradley. Detective, my name is Reagan Sutton. I'm the woman who was arrested for the hit and run on Jennifer Fisher. I know who you are, Miss Sutton. This is highly irregular. You should be going through your attorney. I have evidence that I was framed, I said, by my sister, and I need an hour of your time. Silence. Then, your lawyer already told me you'd try this. Desperation doesn't look good in court, Ms. Sutton. I have her journal, I said. 90 days of entries. She documented the entire plan, including choosing your colleague's wife as a strategic target. The silence stretched longer this time. When Bradley spoke again, his voice was sharper. Come to the station, 2 p.m., come alone. I arrived at the Central Police Station at 1:55 p.m., carrying my laptop and a USB drive with encrypted backups of everything I'd found. Bradley met me in the lobby, a broad-shouldered man in his late 40s, graying hair, sharp blue eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. He wore a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up and a detective's badge clipped to his belt. He didn't offer his hand. Follow me. He led me through a maze of hallways to a small conference room, windowless, a table, 4 chairs, a recording camera in the corner. He gestured to a chair. You've got 30 minutes. Convince me. I opened my laptop and pulled up the journal file. This is my sister Paige's journal. I accessed it legally. I'm the administrator of our family's iCloud account set up 5 years ago, and I never removed my access. I turned the screen toward him. This is day 47, July 30th, 2024. Bradley leaned forward and read in silence. Found her. Detective Robert Fisher's wife, Jennifer. She's a pediatric nurse, perfect innocent victim. She drives home from the hospital every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. straight through Lamar and 6th. And here's the genius part. When a cop's family member gets hurt, the whole department goes insane. They'll arrest whoever's ID is left there, then ask questions later. Reagan won't have time to prove her innocence. His face went hard. Keep going. I scrolled to day 89, September 16th, the night before my arrest. Tomorrow night, everything's ready. I'll hit Jennifer's car around 9:17. Reagan will be on her stupid Zoom call, a perfect alibi that won't mean anything. I'll leave her license on the driver's seat. Mom will call 911 with an anonymous tip. By morning, Reagan will be in jail. Bradley read it twice. Then he sat back, arms crossed. This proves premeditation. But how do I know you didn't fabricate this? I'd expected that. Check the metadata. The entries were created on the exact dates and times shown. Check Paige's device history. She accessed this file the day before the crash. I can show you the iCloud logs. I pulled up a second window. And here's more. Venmo payment to a fake ID dealer in Dallas. Bitcoin transfer on the same day. Text messages about buying a driver's license. I turned the laptop again. Bradley leaned in his jaw tight. He read through the Venmo records, the Coinbase transaction, the deleted text messages I'd extracted from the backup. Finally, he looked up. You also have an alibi that we didn't check. Why not? Because you arrested me before anyone asked. I was on a Zoom call with a client in Singapore from 9 to 10 p.m. the night of the crash. The video is recorded, time-stamped, cloud-hosted. I can send you the link right now. Bradley's eyes narrowed. Why didn't your lawyer present this? Because my father's lawyer isn't trying to prove I'm innocent, I said. He's trying to protect Paige. Bradley stood and paced to the far side of the room. He was silent for a long time. Then he turned back. If what you're telling me is true, this isn't just a hit and run. This is conspiracy, attempted murder, obstruction of justice. Are your parents involved? My mother made the anonymous 911 call, I said. She was at the estate in Westlake Hills, 8 miles from the crash site. Can you prove that? Pull the cell tower records for the 911 call. You'll see. Bradley stared at me. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Fisher, it's Bradley. I need you in conference room B. 2 minutes later, the door opened. Detective Robert Fisher stepped in. He was younger than Bradley, maybe early 50s, with dark circles under his eyes and a wedding ring on his left hand. He looked at me and his expression hardened. You, Detective Fisher, I said quietly. I'm so sorry about your wife and daughter, but I didn't do this, and I can prove it. Bradley gestured to the laptop. Read day 47. Fisher leaned over the screen. I watched his face change confusion, then shock, then rage. He read it twice. Then he looked at Bradley. Is this real? Metadata checks out, Bradley said. iCloud logs confirm it, and she's got financials, text messages, and alibi we didn't verify. Fisher turned to me. His voice shook. Your sister did this on purpose. She chose my wife. Yes, I said, because she knew it would make the department move fast. She knew you'd all be too angry to check my story. Fisher's hands balled into fists. He turned to Bradley. I'm recusing myself. Conflict of interest, but you need to bring her in, now. Bradley nodded. Agreed, but we do this by the book. He looked at me. Ms. Sutton, if I pursue this case, I'm going to investigate your entire family. Your sister could face attempted murder charges. Your parents, conspiracy and obstruction. Are you ready for that? I thought about Paige's journal entry. Goodbye, big sister. I thought about Jennifer Fisher in the ICU, about her 7-year-old daughter's concussion, about 90 days of planning, 90 days of hatred, 90 days of deciding I deserve to be destroyed. I met Bradley's eyes. I'm ready, but I need one thing from you first. Bradley waited. I need to talk to Paige, officially, on the record, and I need to be the one asking the questions. Bradley made the call that evening. I sat across from him in the same conference room where I'd presented my evidence, watching him dial Paige's number on speakerphone. My hands were folded in my lap, but my heart was racing. Here's how this works, Bradley had explained 20 minutes earlier. We invite her in as a witness, not a suspect. She won't bring a lawyer. You'll be in the room as the victim who needs her help. She'll think she's there to support you. And you'll be recording. I'd said. Every word. Two-way mirror audio video. If she confesses, it'll hold up in court. Bradley had leaned forward. But Reagan, you cannot coerce a confession. No threats, no promises. You present evidence and you let her react. Can you do that? I'd met his eyes. I've spent my whole life protecting Paige from consequences. Tomorrow, I won't protect her anymore. Now, as the phone rang, Bradley's voice shifted into something smooth, official, professional. Ms. Sutton, this is Detective James Bradley with the Austin Police Department. I'm calling about the investigation into the accident involving Jennifer Fisher. Paige's voice came through the speaker, cautious. Yes, how can I help? We understand you're Reagan Sutton's sister. We'd like you to come in tomorrow morning as a witness to help us verify Reagan's routines and establish her alibi. There was a pause. Then Paige's voice softened, relief bleeding through. Of course. Anything to help my sister. Reagan didn't do this. 9 a.m. tomorrow, Central Station. You don't need a lawyer, this is just a witness statement. I'll be there, Paige said. The call ended. Bradley looked at me. She sounded relieved. She thinks she's helping bury me, I said quietly. Good. Let her think that until you're face to face. Bradley walked me through interrogation techniques for the next hour. We sat at the table, him with a notepad, me with my laptop open to Paige's journal entries. Start soft, he said. Build rapport. Then hit her with evidence piece by piece. Don't dump it all at once. Let her dig her own hole. What if she lies? She will. Let her. Every lie makes the truth harder to deny later. He tapped the notepad. Watch for micro-expressions. When Paige touches her nose, she's lying. When she looks up and to the right, she's fabricating. When she leans back, she's distancing herself from guilt. And if she tries to leave, she's not under arrest. Technically, she can walk out any time. But narcissists love to talk. If you give her enough rope, she'll hang herself. I nodded, memorizing every word. Bradley stood. Go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. I didn't go home right away. I drove to a coffee shop on South Congress, ordered a black coffee I didn't drink, and sat by the window watching the city move past me. Couples walking hand in hand. Tourists taking photos in front of murals. Normal people living normal lives. I thought about Paige at 8 years old crying because she'd fallen off her bike and scraped her knee. I'd carried her inside, cleaned the wound, put on a Band-Aid with cartoon characters. Ray, you'll always protect me right, she'd said. Always, I'd promised. I thought about Paige at 16 caught shoplifting a designer bracelet from Nordstrom. I'd convinced the store manager not to press charges, paid for the bracelet myself, and driven her home in silence. She'd never apologized. I thought about Paige at 23 asking to borrow $5,000 for rent. I'd transferred the money the same day. She'd never paid it back, and I'd never asked. Because that's what big sisters did. They protected, they sacrificed, they loved unconditionally, and Paige had spent 90 days planning to destroy me. By the time I got home, it was past midnight. I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk reading through Paige's journal one more time, memorizing specific lines. Day 47. If I hit a cop's family, they'll go full force. Day 75. Practice run last night. Day 89. Goodbye, big sister. I practiced in front of the bathroom mirror, my voice flat and cold. Paige, did you take my driver's license? Again. Paige, did you take my driver's license? Again. By 3 a.m., I'd said it 50 times. By 5 a.m., I was staring at the ceiling waiting for the alarm. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed, a text from Paige. Police want me to come in this morning to testify for you. I'm so worried. What should I say? I stared at the screen. She was asking me how to handle it. She wanted me to help her bury myself. I typed slowly. Just tell the truth, Paige. That's all we can do. I hit send. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, okay, love you, sis. I set the phone down and closed my eyes. In 3 hours, Paige would walk into the Austin Police Department thinking she was saving herself. She had no idea she was walking into a trap. and the person holding the door open was her own sister. I arrived at the station at 8:30 a.m. Bradley met me in the hallway outside the interrogation room, a different room from yesterday, smaller with a metal table bolted to the floor and 2 chairs on either side. A camera was mounted in the corner. A 2-way mirror ran along one wall. "Fisher's behind the glass," Bradley said quietly. "He wants to watch." I nodded. "Audio and video are running. When she gets here, I'll bring her in. You'll already be sitting at the table. I'll introduce you as the complainant who's trying to clear her name, and I'll say you asked to speak to her personally. Then I'll step out. And if she asks why I'm there, tell her you wanted to thank her for coming, for supporting you. Make it feel safe." I looked at the 2-way mirror. I couldn't see Fisher, but I knew he was there, watching, waiting for the woman who'd targeted his wife to walk into this room and confess. "What if she doesn't confess?" I asked. Bradley's expression didn't change. "Then we build the case the old-fashioned way. Subpoenas, warrants, forensics. But if she does confess..." He trailed off. "We've got her." I finished. "We've got her." At 8:55 a.m., Bradley's radio crackled. "Subject is here, lobby." He looked at me. "Ready?" I thought about 90 days. I thought about Jennifer Fisher in the ICU. I thought about Paige's text this morning. "Love you, sis." I sat down in the chair facing the door. I'm ready. The interrogation room was colder than I remembered, or maybe my blood was freezing. I sat perfectly still, hands folded on the metal table, and watched the door. At exactly 9 a.m., it opened. Officer Stevens, the same cop who'd arrested me 3 days ago, led Paige inside. She was wearing a cream-colored sweater jeans and flats. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked polished, composed, like she was going to brunch, not a police station. Then she saw me. Her face went blank. "Reagan. I thought I was here for a witness statement." I kept my voice calm, flat. "Sit down, Paige." She hesitated, glancing back at Stevens. He gestured to the chair across from me and stepped out, closing the door behind him. Paige sat slowly, her eyes darting from me to the 2-way mirror on the wall, then back to me. "Why are you here? Shouldn't you have a lawyer?" "This isn't about me," I said. "It's about you." Paige let out a nervous laugh. "What the detective said, the detective wants the truth, and I'm going to help him get it." Her eyes flicked to the mirror again. "I don't understand." "You will." I reached into the folder in front of me and pulled out the first printout, a screenshot of her browser history. I slid it across the table. "Paige, did you search how to report hit and run anonymously on August 20th? She stared at the paper. The color drained from her face. That's from my computer. How did you answer the question?" Her mouth opened, closed. Maybe I was researching for a client. Wedding planning includes..." I slid another printout across. "What about, do police check alibis of family members? Was that for a wedding, too?" Paige's hands clenched on the edge of the table. "You went through my computer. That's illegal." I accessed our family iCloud account. Everything in that account is legally accessible to me as the administrator. Paige's jaw worked, but no sound came out. I leaned forward. "Paige, did you take my driver's license?" Silence. "No. Why would I, July 12th, Wednesday morning, Lifetime Fitness in Westlake. You were there. I was visiting Mom nearby." "You were there because I'm always there every Wednesday morning. You knew my schedule." I slid another paper across the table, a gym sign-in log showing both our names 15 minutes apart. I left my locker unlocked for 5 minutes to take a work call. When I came back, my license was gone. Paige stared at the log. "That doesn't mean Where's your driver's license right now, Paige?" Her hand moved toward her purse. "Don't bother," I said. "I know you still have yours," because the one they found in the Range Rover was mine. Paige's hand froze. She pulled the purse back into her lap, fingers trembling. For the first time, she looked scared. "This is insane. You're trying to frame me, Reagan. I'm your sister. Am I..." I cut her off. My voice was quiet but sharp. "Because sisters don't spend 3 months planning to send each other to prison." Paige went very still. What are you talking about? I reached into the folder again. This time I pulled out the journal entries, all 90 days, printed, dated, highlighted. I laid them on the table one by one like a dealer flipping cards face up. Paige's eyes went wide. What is that? Let me read you a bedtime story, Paige. It's called Day 1, How I Decided to Destroy My Sister. I picked up the first page and read aloud. Day 1, June 18th, dinner tonight. Dad wouldn't stop talking about Reagan's promotion. $178,000 a year Reagan, director level at 33 Reagan. I'm so sick of hearing her name. I plan weddings for millionaires and Dad acts like I'm unemployed. I'm done being second place. Paige's face went white. I kept reading. Day 15, July 3rd. I know what I'm going to do. Reagan thinks she's so smart with her cybersecurity job. She won't see this coming. I need her driver's license first. Then I need a perfect victim, someone who'll make the cops so angry they won't bother checking alibis. Paige shook her head. Stop. Where did you... Day 28, July 11. Reagan goes to the gym in Westlake every Wednesday morning. She's so predictable. I'll run into her tomorrow, grab the license while she's in the shower. I looked up. You did run into me, Paige. You hugged me. You said you missed me, and then you stole my license. I didn't. Day 35, July 18th. Got it. Reagan's license is mine. She hasn't even noticed it's gone. So stupid. My voice cracked on the last word, but I kept going. Day 47, July 30th, found her. Detective Robert Fisher's wife, Jennifer. She's a pediatric nurse, perfect innocent victim. And here's the genius part, when a cop's family member gets hurt, the whole department goes insane. They'll arrest whoever's ID is left there, then ask questions later. Reagan won't have time to prove her innocence. Paige's breathing was ragged now. You hacked my files. This won't hold up. Day 75, September 2nd. Practice run last night. Drove Dad's Range Rover through that intersection drunk at 9:15. No cops. No cameras I could see. Timing's perfect. I set the page down and looked at her. You practiced, Paige. You drove drunk. On purpose. To make sure you could do it. Tears were streaming down her face now, but I didn't stop. Day 82, September 9th. Told Mom the plan. She cried at first, but Dad convinced her. He said this would teach Reagan humility. Mom agreed to make the anonymous 911 call. Paige's voice broke. Reagan, please. Day 89, September 16th. Tomorrow night. Everything's ready. I'll hit Jennifer's car around 9:17. I'll leave Reagan's license on the driver's seat. Mom will call 911 with an anonymous tip. By morning, Reagan will be in jail. She'll lose her job, her reputation, her freedom. She'll finally know what it's like to have nothing. And I'll finally be the successful one. Goodbye, big sister. I set the final page down. The room was silent except for Paige's ragged breathing. She stared at the papers spread across the table, her hands shaking. I can explain, she whispered. Can you? I leaned back in my chair. Because I'm listening, Paige. Explain to me why you spent 90 days planning to destroy me. Explain why you stalked Jennifer Fisher. Explain why you practiced driving drunk so you could hit her car at exactly the right time. Explain why you chose a detective's wife because you knew the police would be too angry to check my alibi. Paige opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Behind the two-way mirror, I knew Bradley was watching, recording every word, every facial expression, every lie Paige had told, and every truth she was about to confess. Go ahead, I said quietly. Explain. Before Paige confesses, comment guilty or innocent, what do you think she'll say? Because in 60 seconds, she explodes. The journals, the evidence, the lies, everything comes out. And what she screams at me, I wanted you to suffer, will be played in court. Note this story uses fictionalized elements for educational purposes. Any resemblance to real events is coincidental. But if you want to see the moment my sister's rage destroys her own defense stay, this is the confession that ends everything. Paige's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I didn't... She stopped. Her hands were shaking on the table. You don't understand. Those searches, I was researching for a blog post about true crime. I listened to podcasts. Paige. I kept my voice level. The journal. Explain the journal. Her face crumpled. You hacked my private files. That's illegal, Reagan. You can't use that in court. Family iCloud account, I said. Completely legal. I'm the administrator. I've had access for 5 years. You agreed to the terms when Mom set it up. But those are my private thoughts. Her voice pitched higher, desperate. You can't. They're just thoughts. I slid the final piece of evidence across the table. A police photo of the Range Rover at the crash scene. Black. Luxury SUV. Front end crumpled. Airbags deployed. This vehicle is registered to Dad's investment company. You have access to it. The crash happened at 9:17 p.m. My Zoom call was recorded from 9 to 10. I wasn't there. I looked up at her. But you were. Paige stared at the photo. Her breathing was ragged, shallow. She stood up suddenly, the chair scraping back. You think you're so smart. Her voice cracked like a whip. I didn't move. Paige slammed her hands on the table. You've always been the favorite. Everything's always about Reagan, Reagan's grades, Reagan's job, Reagan's perfect life. So you tried to destroy it, I said quietly. Yes! She was shouting now, tears streaming down her face, mascara running in black streaks. I wanted you to suffer. I wanted you to know what it's like to lose everything, to be nothing. I leaned forward. Did you choose Jennifer Fisher deliberately? Paige's laugh was wild, unhinged. I didn't care if that cop's wife died. She was collateral damage. This was about you, about making you pay for always being better than me. The room went silent. Paige was breathing hard, her chest heaving. I kept my voice soft, controlled. So you're admitting it. You caused the crash. You left my license at the scene. You tried to frame me. Paige's face went white. She realized what she'd just said. Wait, no, I didn't mean... I knocked twice on the two-way mirror. The door opened. Detective Bradley stepped inside, handcuffs in hand. Paige backed away from the table. No, wait. Bradley's voice was calm, professional. Paige Sutton, you're under arrest for attempted murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon conspiracy to commit fraud and obstruction of justice. He moved behind her. She twisted toward me, eyes wide with panic. Reagan, please, I'm your sister. Bradley pulled her hands behind her back. The handcuffs clicked shut. I stood up, walked around the table, looked her in the eye. You stopped being my sister 90 days ago. Bradley read her Miranda rights as he led her toward the door. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. Paige was sobbing. Reagan, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Please. The door closed behind them. I stood alone in the interrogation room. The journal pages were still spread across the table, the photo of the Range Rover, the browser history printouts, the gym sign-in log, all the pieces that had taken me 3 days to find, 3 days to assemble, 3 days to destroy my sister's life the way she'd tried to destroy mine. I should have felt relief, victory, justice. But instead, I felt hollow. Because I still didn't know the worst part. I didn't know Paige had done this before, to someone else. And that victim was still out there living with the consequences of Paige's last frame job. The door opened again. Bradley stepped back in alone. He looked tired. You did good, he said. That was a clean confession. Voluntary, no coercion. It'll hold up. I nodded but didn't speak. Bradley sat down across from me. We're holding her without bail. Flight risk danger to the community. The DA will file formal charges by end of day. Attempted murder, aggravated assault, conspiracy, obstruction, computer fraud. She's looking at 20 years minimum. What about my parents? I asked. My voice sounded flat, distant. We're bringing them in this afternoon. Your mother for the 911 call, your father for aiding and abetting. We pulled the cell tower records. Your mother's phone pinged 8 miles from the crash site at 9:24 p.m. She made the anonymous tip from the Westlake estate, just like you said. I closed my eyes. And Fisher. his wife. Jennifer's stable, still in ICU, but the doctors say she'll recover. Emma, her daughter, has a concussion, but she's okay. They'll both testify at trial. Bradley paused. You saved them, Reagan. If Paige had gotten away with this, she would have kept going. Narcissists don't stop. I looked at him. She won't stop now either, even in prison. Bradley's jaw tightened. Then we make sure the sentence sticks. He stood to leave, then turned back. One more thing. When we ran Paige's background for priors, something came up. A case from 2 years ago. A woman named Rachel Murphy. She was accused of embezzling $85,000 from her employer. Lost her job, her reputation, everything. She's been working 3 part-time gigs ever since trying to survive. My stomach dropped. What does that have to do with Paige? Rachel worked at the same event planning firm as your sister. The evidence against her was planted. Forged invoices, falsified bank records, and the person who discovered the fraud and reported it was Paige. I felt the room tilt. Paige framed her. We think so. Rachel's always maintained her innocence, but without proof the case went cold. Until now. Bradley set a business card on the table. Rachel Murphy, lives in East Austin, works at a coffee shop on Manor Road. I think you should talk to her. He walked out. I stared at the card. Rachel Murphy, age 30, former events manager, destroyed by my sister 2 years ago. And I'd had no idea. Because while Paige was planning to destroy me for 90 days, she'd already perfected the technique on someone else. Someone who'd lost everything. Someone who was still out there living in the wreckage Paige had left behind. I picked up the card, and I knew what I had to do next. By noon, Paige was in a holding cell. By 1 p.m., Wallace and Margaret were at the station with their lawyer. By 2 p.m., I was back at my apartment staring at evidence I wasn't supposed to find. Bradley had called 30 minutes ago with an update. Your parents lawyered up immediately. Gregory Palmer's representing all 3 of them now. He's trying to get Paige's confession suppressed, claiming coercion. It wasn't coercion, I'd said. She exploded on her own. I know, the video proves it. But he's going to fight. He always does. Bradley had paused. There's something else. When we ran Paige's background, a red flag came up. A case from 2 years ago. Rachel Murphy. I told you about her. I remember. Look into it, Reagan. If Paige did this before it establishes a pattern, pattern means she's not a one-time offender. It means she's a predator. I'd ended the call and opened my laptop. Bradley's words kept circling in my mind. Narcissists don't start with attempted murder. They escalate. I logged into the family iCloud account and scrolled back, past this year's backups, past 2023 to 2022, and there it was, an old iPad backup from June 2022, 2 years ago. I clicked it. Files loaded slowly. Photos, notes, calendar, and a folder labeled Journal 2022, Private. My stomach dropped. Oh my God, another one! I opened the file. 30 entries, June through August 2022. I started reading. Day 1, June 18th, 2022. Rachel Murphy thinks she's so talented. Everyone at the office loves her. Rachel's designs are amazing. Rachel closed 3 clients this month. I'm sick of being compared to her. She needs to go. I scrolled faster. Day 15, June 25th, 2022. I know how to get rid of Rachel now. She has access to company accounts. If money goes missing and her login is used, easy. Dama Day 25, July 20th, 2022. Stole Rachel's laptop password. She left it unlocked at lunch. Amateur mistake. Day 30, August 15th, 2022. Today's the day. I'll transfer $85,000 from the client escrow account to an offshore shell using Rachel's credentials. By tomorrow, she'll be fired, maybe arrested, and I'll finally be the lead event coordinator. I felt sick. Paige had done this before, framed someone, destroyed their life, 2 years before she came after me. I opened a new browser tab and searched Rachel Murphy Austin embezzlement. The first result was an article from the Austin Business Journal dated August 17, 2022. Event manager Rachel Murphy accused of embezzling $85,000. I clicked it. The article was short, cold, factual. Austin-based event planning firm Blue Ribbon Events has filed charges against former employee Rachel Murphy, 28, for allegedly embezzling $85,000 from a client escrow account. Police say evidence is overwhelming. Login records, bank transactions, and email trails all point to Murphy. Murphy denies the charges, claiming she was framed. "I didn't do this," Murphy told reporters outside the Travis County Courthouse. "Someone set me up." Prosecutors say the case will go to trial in October. I scrolled down. A second article dated November 2022, Murphy case dismissed due to insufficient evidence, career still in ruins. Charges against Rachel Murphy were dropped today after forensic accountants discovered irregularities in the digital evidence. However, Murphy's reputation has been irreparably damaged. She has been unable to find work in the event planning industry and is currently unemployed. I opened LinkedIn and searched for Rachel Murphy. Her profile came up. The photo was old professional headshot, bright smile, confident. But the bio was heartbreaking. Currently seeking opportunities. Last employment, Blue Ribbon Events. End date, August 2022. Nothing since. 2 years of unemployment. I clicked through her activity. Scattered posts. Desperate. Does anyone know of openings in event coordination, willing to relocate? Looking for freelance project management work. References available. The last post was 6 months ago. After that silence, I found her current address through a public records search. A studio apartment in East Austin. Rent $800 a month. The kind of place you lived in when you'd lost everything and were barely hanging on. I stared at the screen. Paige had destroyed this woman. Systematically. Methodically. Just like she'd tried to destroy me. And Rachel had been living in the wreckage for 2 years with no idea who'd really done it. I picked up my phone and called Bradley. "I found it," I said. "Paige did this before, to a woman named Rachel Murphy, 2 years ago. Same method. Framed her for embezzlement, planted evidence, ruined her career." "Send me everything you have," Bradley said. "If we can prove a pattern, it strengthens the case, shows premeditation, shows intent, shows she's done this before and will do it again." "I'm going to find Rachel," I said. "She deserves to know the truth." "Reagan, be careful. If Paige framed her too, Rachel might want justice, just like me." I hung up, grabbed my keys, and drove to East Austin. The building was run down, peeling paint, cracked sidewalk. A far cry from the polished professional woman I'd seen in Rachel's old LinkedIn photos. I stood outside apartment 2B at 6 p.m. and knocked. Footsteps. The door opened, a cracked chain lock still fastened. A woman's face appeared, thin, tired, with dark circles under her eyes. She looked older than 30, like she'd aged a decade in 2 years. "Yes. Rachel Murphy." She hesitated. "Who's asking?" I took a breath. "My name is Reagan Sutton. My sister Paige destroyed your life 2 years ago, and 3 days ago she tried to do the same to me. I think it's time we compared notes." Rachel let me in. The studio apartment was barely 400 square feet, but it was clean. This was survival, not living. A futon against one wall doubled as bed and couch. A hot plate sat on a particle board counter next to a mini fridge. No TV, no decorations, just a laptop on a folding table and a stack of bills held down by a coffee mug. Rachel gestured to the futon. "Sit. I'd offer you coffee, but..." She trailed off. She didn't need to finish. She couldn't afford it. I sat. Rachel stayed standing, arms crossed, eyes wary. "You said your sister destroyed my life. Paige Sutton. I remember her. We worked together at Premier Austin Events 2 years ago." "I know," I said, "and I need to show you something." I opened my laptop and pulled up the 2022 journal file, turned the screen toward her. "This is Paige's private journal from June through August 2022. She documented everything. Rachel's hands trembled as she scrolled through the entries. Her face went pale. Day 1. She wrote about me. Rachel Murphy thinks she's so talented. She kept reading. Day 15. I know how to get rid of Rachel. Day 25. Stole Rachel's laptop password. Her voice broke. Day 30. I'll transfer $85,000 using Rachel's credentials. Oh my God, she wrote it all down. She planned it. Just like she planned what she did to me, I said quietly. Rachel collapsed onto the futon beside me, staring at the screen. I told everyone I was framed. My boss, the police, my own family. No one believed me. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Why would they? The evidence was perfect. Login records, bank transfers, my password, my computer. I believe you, I said. Rachel's breath hitched. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Tell me what happened, I said. All of it. Rachel took a shaky breath. 2 years ago, I was an event manager at Premier Austin Events. I was good at my job. I'd closed 3 major clients, that quarter weddings, corporate galas. My boss was talking about promoting me to senior manager. She paused. Paige was hired 6 months after me. At first she was charming, friendly, but then she got competitive. Every client I landed, she'd try to poach. Every design I pitched, she'd criticize to management. She made everything a contest I didn't want to be in. Rachel's jaw tightened. In August 2022, $85,000 disappeared from a client escrow account. The login records showed my credentials. The money was transferred to an offshore account I'd never heard of. I was fired the same day. The company filed criminal charges. I spent every cent I had on a lawyer. What happened in court? I asked. The evidence was overwhelming, Rachel said. My lawyer convinced the DA to drop the criminal charges in exchange for restitution and resignation, but my reputation was destroyed. Every event company in Austin knew my name. Background checks flagged embezzlement investigation. I applied to 200 jobs, got 2 interviews, 0 offers. She gestured around the apartment. I've been driving for Uber and DoorDash for 2 years, living here. My parents disowned me, said I'd embarrass the family. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I lost everything. My career, my savings, my family, because of Paige. I looked at her, this woman who'd been exactly where I was 3 days ago, accused, arrested, abandoned, except Rachel hadn't had evidence to fight back. She'd been living in the wreckage for 2 years while Paige moved on to her next victim. Me. Rachel, I said. I can prove it was Paige. I have her confession in this journal. And with what she just did to me, framing me for attempted murder, we can reopen your case. Rachel's eyes widened. Reopen it. After 2 years. Pattern of behavior, I said. Paige framed you in 2022. She tried to frame me in 2024. Same method. Steal credentials, commit the crime plant. Evidence, destroy the victim. If we show that pattern to the DA, they'll see she's not a one-time offender. She's a predator. Rachel stared at me. If we prove she framed me, can I get my life back? I don't know, I said honestly. But we can try. Rachel was silent for a long moment. Then she leaned forward, elbows on her knees, face in her hands. When she looked up, her expression had changed. The exhaustion was still there, but something else had appeared. Determination. What do you need me to do? Come to the police station tomorrow morning, I said. Give a statement. Tell them what happened in 2022. I'll provide the journal as evidence. Detective Bradley, the lead investigator on my case, will take your statement and cross-reference it with Paige's recent confession. Will they believe me this time? Rachel asked. Her voice was small, hopeful, scared. They'll believe you, I said, because this time Paige has already confessed to framing someone else. You won't be the crazy woman claiming she was set up. You'll be the second victim in a pattern. Rachel nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. There's one more thing, I said. If we go forward with this, Paige's lawyers will come after you. They'll say you're making it up for revenge, that you're an opportunist jumping on my case. They'll drag you through the mud. Rachel's jaw set. Let them. I've been living in the mud for 2 years. At least this time I'll be fighting back. I stood, extended my hand. Then we do this together. Rachel stood and shook my hand. Her grip was firm. Together. As I left her apartment and walked back to my car, my phone rang. Detective Bradley. Reagan, we've got a problem. Wallace and Margaret posted bail for Paige. $500,000. She's out. My stomach dropped. When? 20 minutes ago, her lawyer argued no flight risk community ties. I thought about Paige's journal entry. Day 90. Even if Reagan suspects me, she has no proof. But Paige didn't know I had the journals. She didn't know about Rachel, and she definitely didn't know what I was about to do next. Bradley, I said, I need you to bring Rachel Murphy in tomorrow morning, and I need to talk to the DA. We're not just charging Paige with 1 crime. We're charging her with 2. We're going to prove she's a serial offender. The next 3 days were a blur of police statements, evidence review, and watching the district attorney build a case that would bury Paige. Friday morning, September 20th. Rachel and I sat across from Detective Bradley and DA Patricia Monroe in a conference room at the Travis County DA's office. Monroe was 58, silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, sharp gray eyes that missed nothing. She'd been prosecuting major crimes in Austin for 20 years. Bradley had warned me she was ruthless. Good. We needed ruthless. Rachel told her story, every detail, the jealousy, the stolen password, the $85,000 that disappeared from the escrow account, the fingerprints all over her digital life login records, bank transfers, forged invoices all planted by Paige. Her voice was steady, but I could see her hands trembling in her lap as she recounted the day she was fired, the day the police showed up at her apartment, the day her own parents told her they were ashamed to call her their daughter. Monroe listened without interrupting. She didn't take notes. She didn't nod sympathetically. She just watched Rachel with the cold, analytical focus of a prosecutor, calculating exactly how to present this testimony to a jury. When Rachel finished, Monroe leaned back in her chair. The leather creaked softly in the silence. Why didn't you report this as a frame-up at the time? Rachel's voice was steady, but I could see her hands trembling in her lap. I did. No one believed me. The evidence was too strong. I slid the 2022 journal across the table. This is why. Monroe read in silence. Her expression didn't change, but her jaw tightened. I watched her eyes move across the page, line by line, absorbing every premeditated step Paige had documented. When she looked up, her eyes were cold. This is premeditated, calculated. Mrs. Murphy, we're going to reopen your case. Rachel's breath hitched. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Thank you. Monroe didn't smile. She just closed the journal and slid it back to me. We're going to need the original and every piece of digital evidence you can provide. Saturday, September 21st, the DA's office set up a war room. A whiteboard covered one wall, 2 timelines drawn side by side in blue and red marker. 2022 Rachel Murphy, June jealousy trigger, July password stolen, August $85,000 embezzlement Rachel framed, 2024 Reagan Sutton, June jealousy trigger, July driver's license stolen, September attempted murder Reagan framed. Monroe stood in front of the board, arms crossed. Identical M.O. This is her playbook. Bradley nodded. We can charge her with pattern offenses. Sentencing enhancements will apply. I want everything, Monroe said. Every journal entry, every financial record, every witness. I opened my laptop and pulled up the files I'd compiled over the past week. Both journals, 2022 and 2024. 90 days of premeditation in 2024. 30 days in 2022. Financial records. Bitcoin purchases. Venmo payments to fake ID dealers. Offshore account transfers in Rachel's case. Digital evidence. Browser histories. Deleted text messages. iCloud backups. Login timestamps. Witness list. Rachel Murphy. Jennifer Fisher, once she recovered enough to testify. Emma Fisher, age 7, age-appropriate statement about the crash. Officer Kyle Stevens, who'd arrested me. The Uber driver who'd seen the Range Rover fleeing the scene. Monroe's assistant, a young prosecutor named Vincent Shaw, took notes as I walked through each piece of evidence. He was maybe 30 sharp suit, sharper eyes. He didn't interrupt, but I could see him mentally cataloging every detail, already constructing the narrative Monroe would present to the jury. When I finished, Monroe turned to Bradley. "How solid is the 2024 confession?" "Rock solid," Bradley said. "Voluntary, no coercion. Page exploded during questioning. Full admission on video. I wanted her to suffer. I didn't care if the cop's wife died." Her exact words. Monroe's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Good. Let's bury her." Sunday, September 22nd. Monroe called us back to her office. Rachel and I sat side by side. Bradley stood near the door. Monroe had a thick folder in front of her. She opened it. "This is what we're filing against Paige Sutton." She read from a list. 2024 offenses. 2 counts of attempted murder, Jennifer Fisher and Emma Fisher. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Felony hit and run. Child endangerment. Identity theft. Obstruction of justice. She turned to Paige. 2022 offenses. Embezzlement $85,000. Wire fraud. Identity theft Rachel Murphy's credentials. Computer fraud under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Another page. Pattern enhancements. Organized criminal activity under Texas RICO statutes. Professional criminal designation due to repeated planned offenses targeting multiple victims. Monroe looked up. If convicted on all counts, she's facing 25 to 30 years in state prison. No parole eligibility for the first 15. I felt the weight of those words settle over the room. 25 to 30 years. Paige would be in her 50s when she got out. If she got out. The air in Monroe's office suddenly felt thinner, heavier. Rachel shifted beside me and I heard her breath catch. "What about my parents?" I asked. My voice sounded flat, distant. Monroe's expression softened slightly. "Wallace and Margaret will be prosecuted separately. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. Filing a false police report, the 911 call. Aiding and abetting after the fact. If they cooperate and testify against Paige, they might get probation and community service. If they don't," she paused, "they're looking at 2 to 5 years each." I nodded slowly. They made their choice. Monroe closed the folder. Arraignment is Monday morning, 9 a.m. Paige will enter a plea. Almost certainly not guilty. After that, we prep for trial. I'll need both of you to testify. Rachel and I looked at each other. She nodded. "We'll be there." As we left the DA's office, the late afternoon sun was brutal. Austin in September, still 95 degrees, the heat radiating off the pavement. The air smelled like hot asphalt and exhaust fumes. Rachel and I walked to the parking garage in silence. Neither of us spoke until we reached my car. At my car, she stopped, turned to face me. "Reagan." Her voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you for believing me, for fighting for me." I looked at her, this woman whose life Paige had destroyed, who'd spent 2 years in poverty and shame, who'd lost her career, her family, her future, and I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about my innocence anymore. This was about making sure Paige never destroyed another life. "We're not done yet," I said. "Monday's the arraignment. Paige will plead not guilty, and then we go to trial." Rachel nodded. "I'm ready." But I didn't say what I was really thinking. That I was terrified. Because Paige was out on bail. She knew I'd turned against her. She knew about the journals, about Rachel, about the case Monroe was building, and she had nothing left to lose. People with nothing to lose were the most dangerous kind. I thought about Paige's journal. Day 90. Even if Reagan suspects me, she has no proof. But now I had all the proof, and Paige knew it, which meant she was either going to run or she was going to fight. And I had no idea which would be worse. Monday morning, September 25th, Travis County Courthouse. I sat in the gallery and watched my sister plead not guilty to 14 charges. The courtroom was packed. Media in the back rows, cameras banned, but notepads out. Jennifer Fisher's family on the prosecution side. My parents sat behind Paige, flanked by their own attorney. I sat alone. Paige entered in a tailored cream dress, heels, hair perfectly styled. Not an orange jumpsuit. She was still out on bail, still free. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Catherine Walsh, looked down from the bench. Paige Sutton, you are charged with 14 counts, 2 counts of attempted murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, felony hit and run, child endangerment, identity theft, obstruction of justice, embezzlement, wire fraud, computer fraud, identity theft in the case of Rachel Murphy, and organized criminal activity under RICO statutes. The list took 30 seconds to read. Each charge landed like a hammer. How do you plead? Paige's voice was clear, confident. Not guilty, Your Honor. I felt something cold settle in my chest. She was going to fight. Of course she was. D.A. Monroe stood. Your Honor, the state requests remand. The defendant is a danger to witnesses, specifically her sister, Reagan Sutton. Gregory Palmer rose smoothly. Your Honor, my client has complied with every condition of bail. She poses no flight risk. She has deep community ties and a spotless record prior to these allegations. Judge Walsh looked at Paige over her reading glasses. Bail will remain. But Ms. Sutton, you are hereby ordered to have no contact, direct or indirect, with Reagan Sutton or Rachel Murphy. Violation will result in immediate remand. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Trial is set for December 2nd, 2024. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell. I stood to leave, threading through the crowd toward the exit. In the courthouse hallway, I saw them. Paige, Wallace, Margaret, Gregory Palmer beside them, briefcase in hand, already strategizing. Wallace saw me and stepped forward. Reagan, we need to talk, as a family. I kept walking. I don't have anything to say to you. Margaret's voice broke. Please, sweetheart. Paige made a mistake, but she's still your sister. I stopped, turned. She tried to send me to prison for 10 years. That's not a mistake. That's attempted destruction. Paige stepped forward, and for a moment our eyes met. Hers were cold, flat. You're going to regret this, Reagan, for tearing this family apart. I didn't tear it apart, I said quietly. You did, 90 days ago. A courthouse deputy moved between us. Ms. Sutton, there's a no-contact order. Step back. Paige stared at me for another beat, then turned and walked away with our parents. I watched them disappear down the corridor, and I knew standing there in the echoing marble hallway that was the last time I'd speak to any of them, at least as family. The next 3 weeks blurred into a rhythm of preparation. Week 1, I met with Monroe's trial team every morning at the DA's office. They drilled me on testimony. Answer the question asked. Don't volunteer extra information. The defense will try to paint you as vindictive. Stay calm. We reviewed evidence for hours. My Zoom recording from the night of the crash. The journal entries highlighted and bookmarked. Financial records showing Paige's Bitcoin purchases, Venmo payments, offshore transfers. Every piece of the case I'd built. Week 2. Jennifer Fisher was discharged from the hospital. 6 weeks after the crash, she'd recovered enough to walk to speak to testify. Monroe arranged for us to meet at her office. Jennifer was thinner than in the photos I'd seen. Her left arm was still in a sling, but her eyes were clear. Thank you, she said when we sat down, for finding the truth, for proving it was her. Yeah, I didn't know what to say. I'm sorry it happened to you. It wasn't your fault. She reached across the table with her good hand and squeezed mine. You stopped her. That's what matters. Emma Fisher, age 7, was too traumatized to testify in person. Monroe arranged for a video deposition Emma in a child-friendly interview room, a trauma specialist asking gentle questions. I watched the recording once. Saw the little girl describe the crash, the airbag, her mother screaming. I couldn't watch it again. Week 3. Palmer filed motions to suppress. First, the journals. Obtained without consent, invasion of privacy. Judge Walsh denied it. Family iCloud account. Administrator access is legal. Motion denied. Second, all iCloud evidence. Fruit of the poisonous tree. Denied again. The defendant agreed to the account terms. Access was lawful. Motion denied. Rachel gave her deposition. I sat in the observation room and watched her on the monitor. She was steady, consistent. She told the story of 2022 without flinching. Palmer's associate cross-examined her for 2 hours trying to break her. She didn't break. On October 15th, Monroe called me in for the final prep session. You'll be on the stand 4 to 6 hours, direct examination, then cross. Palmer will attack your credibility. He'll claim you fabricated the journals out of sibling rivalry, that you manipulated the evidence. Stay calm. I will. He'll bring up the iCloud access, call it hacking. It wasn't. We know. But he'll try to make the jury doubt. You need to be unshakable. I nodded. Monroe leaned back in her chair. Reagan, I've prosecuted pattern offenders for 20 years. I've never seen documentation like this. Most criminals try to hide their crimes. Paige documented hers like she was proud. That's our advantage. Her own words will convict her. What if the jury doesn't believe the journals are real? Then we have the confession, the video from the interrogation, Paige screaming, I wanted you to suffer. I didn't care if the cop's wife died. That's not something you can fake. That's not something Palmer can explain away. She stood. Get some rest this weekend. Trial starts Monday, December 2nd, 9 a.m. We're going to bury her. The night before trial, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my apartment staring at the city lights through the window and thought about Paige's face in the courthouse hallway. Not scared, not remorsant, defiant. She still thought she could win. Palmer's strategy was clear now. Attack me. Paint me as a vengeful sister, a tech manipulator who'd forged evidence. Make the jury doubt the journals. Create reasonable doubt. But there was one thing Palmer couldn't explain. Paige's own voice. The confession we'd recorded. I'd watched that interrogation video dozens of times, preparing myself to see it again in court. And every time I heard Paige scream, I wanted you to suffer, something inside me hardened. Tomorrow, 12 strangers would hear it too. They'd see the journals. They'd hear Jennifer Fisher describe the crash. They'd hear Rachel Murphy describe 2 years of poverty and shame. They'd hear me explain how I'd found the evidence piece by piece, thread by thread, and then they'd decide whether my sister would spend the next 30 years in prison or whether she'd walk free. December 2nd, 2024. The trial of Paige Sutton began on a cold Monday morning. It lasted 5 days. It felt like 5 years. The courtroom was packed every day. Media, victim advocates, curious onlookers who'd read about the case in the Austin American-Statesman. I sat in the front row on the prosecution side, Rachel beside me. Across the aisle, Wallace and Margaret sat behind Paige and Gregory Palmer. We never made eye contact. Judge Catherine Walsh presided, the same judge from the arraignment, stern and no nonsense. 12 jurors sat in the box. 7 women, 5 men. Ages ranging from early 20s to late 60s. Ordinary people who would decide my sister's fate. D.A. Monroe stood for the opening statement. This is a case about jealousy, premeditation, and destruction. Paige Sutton spent 3 months planning to send her sister to prison, and 2 years before that, she destroyed another woman's life. This is who she is, a predator who targets successful women out of envy and destroys them without remorse. The evidence will show that Paige Sutton is guilty of every single charge. Palmer rose, smooth, polished. This is a case about a family torn apart. Reagan Sutton, a tech expert, had the means and motive to fabricate digital evidence. She accessed her sister's private accounts, violated her privacy, and constructed a narrative to escape responsibility for a crime she committed. The defense will show reasonable doubt, because that's all you need. If you have any doubt, any at all, you must acquit. Day 2, my turn on the stand. Monroe walked me through the timeline, the arrest, the missing license, the investigation, the journals. 4 hours of direct examination. Then Palmer stood for cross. Ms. Sutton, you admit you accessed your sister's journal without her permission. I accessed a family iCloud account I legally administer. Convenient, isn't it, that you found evidence of your sister's guilt? The journals are Paige's own words. Metadata proves every entry was written on the date shown. I didn't fabricate anything. You're a cybersecurity analyst. You could manipulate metadata. I didn't, but you could. I looked at the jury. I could, but I didn't. And the forensic analysis backs that up. Palmer tried for another hour. I didn't break. Day 3. Rachel took the stand. She told her story. The 2022 frame-up, the stolen password, the $85,000. 2 years of poverty and unemployment. Her voice never wavered. Palmer's cross lasted 30 minutes. He couldn't shake her. Jennifer Fisher testified next. Thinner, quieter, but steady. She described the crash, the impact, waking up in the ICU, her daughter's concussion, learning that someone had deliberately hit her car. I thought it was an accident, she said, until I found out it was planned, that I was chosen because my husband is a detective, that my daughter and I were just collateral. Her voice broke on the last word. 2 jurors wiped their eyes. Day 4, the confession video. Monroe stood. Your Honor, the state would like to present Exhibit 47, the interrogation of Paige Sutton recorded September 19th, 2024. Palmer objected. This confession was obtained under duress. Overruled, Judge Walsh said. The defendant was not under arrest at the time. She was interviewed as a witness. No Miranda warning was required. The confession is admissible. The lights dimmed. The screen at the front of the courtroom lit up. And there was Paige, sitting across from me in that interrogation room. The video started midway through, my voice calm and cold. Did you choose Jennifer Fisher deliberately? Paige's voice rising. I didn't care if that cop's wife died. She was collateral damage. This was about you. The courtroom went silent. One juror covered her mouth. Another sat back, face twisted in disgust. The video continued, Paige screaming, I wanted you to suffer. I wanted you to know what it's like to lose everything. Then the moment she realized what she'd said, her face going white. Wait, no, I didn't mean... The video ended. The lights came up. Paige stared at the table, hands trembling. She didn't look up. Palmer stood trying to salvage something. Your Honor, my client was under extreme emotional distress. The confession was voluntary, Monroe said. Miss Sutton exploded of her own accord. She wasn't coerced. She wasn't threatened. She told the truth, and now the jury has heard it. Judge Walsh nodded. Proceed. Day 5. Closing arguments. Monroe stood before the jury. You've seen the journals. 90 days of planning. You've heard her own words. I wanted her to suffer. You've seen the evidence. 2 women. 2 frame-ups, 1 perpetrator. Paige Sutton is guilty, and she deserves every year the law allows. Palmer made his final attempt. Reasonable doubt. That's all you need. Can you be 100% certain those journals weren't tampered with? That the confession wasn't coerced? If you have any doubt, any at all, you must acquit. The jury filed out at 2:15 p.m. Rachel and I waited in the hallway. Bradley joined us, leaning against the wall, arms crossed. How long do you think? Rachel asked. Could be hours. Could be days. I didn't answer. I couldn't. At 6:30 p.m., the courtroom deputy appeared. Jury's back. 4 hours. We filed back into the courtroom. Paige sat rigid between her lawyers. Wallace and Margaret looked like they'd aged 10 years in 5 days. Judge Walsh entered. We stood, sat. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman, a man in his 50s, graying hair, teacher's glasses, stood. We have your honor. On the charge of attempted murder in the case of Jennifer Fisher, how do you find the defendant guilty? Margaret sobbed. The foreman continued. Attempted murder, Emma Fisher. Guilty. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Guilty. Felony hit and run. Guilty. Child endangerment. Guilty. Identity theft Reagan Sutton. Guilty. Obstruction of justice. Guilty. He read through all 14 charges. Guilty. 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 Paige's face crumpled. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Palmer put a hand on her shoulder, but she didn't move. Judge Walsh's voice cut through the noise. Ms. Sutton, you have been found guilty on all counts. Sentencing is set for December 20th, 2 weeks from today. Remand the defendant. 2 deputies approached. Paige stood on shaking legs. They cuffed her hands behind her back. As they led her toward the side door, she turned, looked at me. There was no defiance left. Just emptiness. Her lips moved. The courtroom was too loud for me to hear, but I read the words. I hate you. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The door closed. Paige was gone. December 20th, 2024. Sentencing day. The courtroom was colder this time, or maybe that was just the finality of it all. 2 weeks had passed since the guilty verdict. Paige sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, now hands cuffed in front of her. No more designer dresses, no more pretense. Gregory Palmer sat beside her, but there was nothing left to argue. Judge Catherine Walsh looked down from the bench. Before sentencing, the court will hear victim impact statements. Jennifer Fisher stood first. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped the podium. My daughter, Emma, is 7 years old. Every night she has nightmares. She screams when she hears a car horn. Paige Sutton didn't just hit our car. She crashed into our lives. My husband Robert is a detective. He sees the worst of humanity every day, but nothing prepared him for arriving at the scene and finding his family bleeding. Paige Sutton doesn't deserve mercy because she showed us none. Rachel Murphy stood next, thinner than she'd been 9 months ago, but stronger. 2 years ago, Paige Sutton destroyed my career, my reputation, and my family relationships. I lost everything. I spent 2 years thinking I deserved it, that maybe I'd made a mistake, but I hadn't. Paige took everything from me because she was jealous. Your Honor, she needs to be stopped, because if she gets out, she'll do this again, to someone else. Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium, looked at Judge Walsh, not at Paige. Paige is my sister. I protected her my whole life, and she repaid me by trying to send me to prison for 10 years. But this isn't about me anymore. It's about making sure Paige never gets the chance to destroy anyone else's life. Your Honor, I ask for the maximum sentence. Judge Walsh looked at Paige. Ms. Sutton, stand. Paige stood chains rattling. The judge's voice was cold, measured. I have reviewed the evidence, the presentence report, and the victim statements. What you did was not a moment of weakness. It was calculated, premeditated, and cruel. You documented your plan to destroy your sister for 90 days. And before that, you destroyed Rachel Murphy's life for the pettiest of reasons, jealousy. She paused. You have shown no remorse. Even your confession was filled with rage, not regret. The law allows for sentencing enhancements in pattern offenses. I will apply those enhancements. On the charges of attempted murder, I sentence you to 15 years for each count to run consecutively. On the charges of embezzlement and fraud related to Rachel Murphy, I sentence you to an additional 8 years. Combined with the remaining charges, your total sentence is 30 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. You will not be eligible for parole for the first 15 years. Paige's legs buckled. Margaret wailed from the gallery. Wallace sat frozen, face gray. Judge Walsh's gavel fell. Bailiff remanded the defendant. 2 deputies took Paige's arms, led her toward the door. She didn't look back, and I felt nothing. Not relief, not satisfaction, just emptiness. It was over. 9 months later, September 2025. My life was different, better, whole. I stood in front of the mirror in my new corner office at Secure Net Solutions, Director of Cybersecurity Architecture, salary $230,000 a year, up from $178,000. The $52,000 bonus from last year had gone toward 2 things. First, a $100,000 scholarship fund for Emma Fisher, for college therapy, whatever she needed. Second, $214,000 to cover Jennifer Fisher's medical bills in full. She'd sent me a card. "You saved my family twice. Once from Paige, once from debt. Thank you." I kept it on my desk. Rachel Murphy worked 3 offices down from mine. I'd hired her 6 months ago as senior event coordinator. Her record had been expunged completely. The DA had filed the motion the day after Paige's sentencing. She'd saved $25,000, moved into a real apartment in South Congress, and was slowly rebuilding her relationship with her parents. Last week, she'd told me she'd been promoted again, lead event strategist. "I never thought I'd get my career back," she'd said. "You earned it," I'd told her. Jennifer and Emma were healing. Jennifer had returned to work at Dell Children's Hospital. Emma was in therapy twice a week. The nightmares were less frequent. She'd started 2nd grade, made new friends, smiled more. Robert Fisher had called me once 3 months ago. "Thank you," he'd said, "for everything. I'm just glad they're okay." They are, because of you. Wallace and Margaret had both pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice. They'd received 2 years of probation, 500 hours of community service each, and fines totaling $80,000. The Westlake house had sold for $3.1 million. After legal fees, $425,000 for Paige's defense, another $200,000 for their own. They'd moved to a modest 2-bedroom condo in North Austin. I saw them once a year. Thanksgiving. Awkward, polite, cold. We didn't talk about Paige. Paige was at Mountain View Unit in Gatesville, Texas, a women's prison 2 hours north of Austin. She'd sent me one letter 4 months ago. 3 sentences. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please write back." I'd thrown it away. I didn't hate her. I didn't feel anything. And maybe that was worse. Today I sat across from Rachel at a coffee shop on 2nd Street. The September sun poured through the windows, warm and golden. Rachel smiled. "I got promoted again, senior event strategist." "You deserve it," I said. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I never thanked you properly. For believing me. For saving me." "We saved each other," I said. We raised our coffee cups, toasted. Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. "Client meeting in 20. Go," I said. "I'll get the check." She hugged me before she left. "Dinner this week." Absolutely. I sat alone for a moment, looking out at the Austin skyline. 1 year ago, I'd been arrested for a crime I didn't commit. My own sister had tried to destroy me, but she'd forgotten one thing. I was Reagan Sutton. My job was solving problems, and the biggest problem I'd ever solved was my own family. My phone buzzed. A work email. A new case. A logistics company in Dallas with a security breach. I stood dropped cash on the table and walked out into the September sunshine. Free, not just from the charges, but from a family that had never deserved me. And for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I belonged. And to you listening to this story, remember, this God gave me the intelligence to uncover the truth, the strength to fight back, and the courage to choose justice over family loyalty. 3 times I could have walked away when I found the first journal entry when I saw Rachel's suffering, when the confession video played in court, but God kept pushing me forward because some battles are worth fighting even when they cost you everything. Looking back, I don't regret exposing Paige, but I do regret not seeing the signs earlier. The jealousy, the competitiveness, the way she blamed everyone else for her failures. Family betrayal doesn't announce itself with a villain's monologue. It creeps in quietly disguised as sibling rivalry until one day you wake up in handcuffs because your own blood tried to destroy you. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you're framed for attempted murder to realize that family revenge isn't just something that happens in movies. It's real, and it's devastating. Here's my advice. Trust your instincts. If someone in your family makes you feel small, jealous, or unsafe, even if you love them, protect yourself. Because family betrayal is the worst kind. They know your passwords, your routines, your weaknesses. And if they decide to use that knowledge against you, you might not get a second chance. I almost didn't. Family revenge taught me that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. And family betrayal taught me that sometimes the people you die for are the ones trying to bury you. So, if this story resonated with you, leave a comment below. Have you experienced betrayal from someone you trusted? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to this channel because the next stories dive even deeper into the darkness people are capable of. Thank you for listening to the very end. And a quick disclaimer, the stories on this channel contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If this content isn't for you, feel free to explore other videos that suit your preferences. Stay safe out there.